All right, so we definitely have a quorum. It looks like all school committee members are present except for the mayor, which she did say, for those of you who did not hear me, that she may not be joining us or would be joining us late. So at 6:32 p.m., I will call this special school committee meeting for the Greenfield Public Schools to order. It is Tuesday, March 24th, 2020. We are remote. We are broadcasting audio only through GCTV, and GCTV is recording this. Is there any other entity that is on the line and recording? Okay. Just for note, this meeting is being held fully remotely in accordance with the Governor of Massachusetts March 12th, 2020 order suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law, general laws, section 30A, subsection 20. And moving right into the agenda, Member Ekstrom, since you had already agreed to do it, would you be so kind as to do a roll call?
Sure. Member Karen.
Here.
Chair Prietti.
Here.
Member Holland.
Here.
Member Ward.
Member Ward.
You mean
Member
Wall?
I mean Wall. Sorry, geez. I just read the WA. Sorry about that, Jean. Member Wall.
Here.
Member Johnson. Secretary Johnson.
Here.
And Vice Chair Ekstrom. I am also here. Mayor Wiedegartner is not present, but word on the street is she will be joining us in a bit. We have a quorum.
Thank
also
you.
present. Also present, we have Jan Dickinson, Jordana Harper, and Susan Farber. No Steve Merkel. Okay, sorry.
Okay, thank you. We will move right into public comment. Comments tonight will be limited to 3 minutes. We will have to do the best we can to take these in a nice and a nice order. Is anyone on the line wishing to make a public comment?
Thelma.
The dog.
Thelma would like to speak.
Yes, Thelma is always interested in public comment. Anyone, public comment? Okay, hearing none. We will move into committee reports. I have only 2 on the agenda tonight because it is a special meeting. My report this evening will likely be a little bit disjointed, but I will do the best I can. I first want to recognize the superintendent for an amazing and exhausting amount of work that she has been doing since the call was made to suspend school starting on March 16th. There has been call after call with the Commissioner of Education, with superintendents across the region, with elected officials, with myself. I think we've talked just about daily, and she's just doing an amazing amount of advocacy on behalf of our students, working well with as well with the principals, with the staff, all kinds of staff, food service staff, custodial staff across the district to just try to keep things orderly, keep things moving, keep people informed of what's happening. And it's just been an incredible amount of work. And I want to really thank her for that, especially in light of all of the changing guidance that's been coming down from both the federal and state government. And I want to kind of move into, these are really just some things that I've seen that I have some concerns about related to where we appear to be moving, which is towards remote learning for a period of time, and perhaps for a longer period of time than anyone would like. We're really not sure yet of any timelines. There's been no decision making. There's no clear end in terms of the public health pandemic that we're in right now. And this, I believe, will go on at least through the 3-week planned period, and what remains to be seen whether or not it will grow longer. There's been some push to continue to move towards some virtual or remote or distance or whatever we want to call it learning within the district and across the state. And I, for one, have a number of different concerns related to that I want to speak to as not as necessarily an educator, but as a layperson and as a chair of the school committee, and trying to identify what is best for the district and what's best for our students. I take very, I'm very committed to having equity and access for all of our students. And in the current environment, that is not happening. It's not possible. Students who have special needs, students who are English language learners, students who don't have access to the internet, don't have computers or other electronic devices at home, are at a huge disadvantage in the present environment. And in the past couple of days or this week, it appears that we're seeing the state wanting to try to move towards a situation where remote learning is expected. Virtual learning is going to become the new expectation. And for our students, particularly in Greenfield, there are some real, true concerns about what that means. And we have to continue to advocate, as the superintendent is doing, and also as Paul Mark and Joe Comerford are doing on our behalf at the state level, as well as I think the superintendent will speak to the Mass Association of School Superintendents and the Mass Association of School Committees. I think will help to advocate a little bit in getting some firmer footing around what that means for all of our students and equity and access. There are some real unknowns, and we need to make sure that however we move forward, there is a place at the table for all of our students, regardless of their learning style and their abilities and their access to technology. And I can't stress that strongly enough. The minute that we decide we're going to move forward with remote learning, the analogy that I use is that if you let your neighbor park their boat in your yard, and how are you ever going to get them to move that boat again? The minute that we decide that we are going to allow remote learning without having equity and access for all students in place, how are we going to ever get back to a place where equity and access is the law and it's the expectation in our schools? We cannot give on this piece, and I cannot stress that strongly enough. And I hope that as the days unfold in this very new and very unknown reality that we're in, that we are able to, as a district and as a school committee, be in a leadership role in making sure that every one of our students has what they need in place to be successful and to learn. And I think I'll stop there. Hopefully I've made my point clear enough, and that'll be the end of my report unless there's any comment from any of the school committee members.
I'd like to comment.
Sure. Member Hollins.
I think I appreciate your comments. I certainly appreciate your recognition of the work of the superintendent and the work you're doing. When you moved from a report to your personal opinion, I respect. I think at that point, the other members of the committee should have an opportunity to express their opinion, because we each have an equal and maybe a different opinion. So I think it's okay to have moved from report to opinion, but then I think we should add that to our discussion.
You're welcome to give some comment on this. I don't have a problem with that at all.
Okay, I certainly support equity. I didn't have any problem with that. I think there are a lot of ways that people can continue doing what they're doing, and the different age groups maybe what we do for different age groups maybe is different. I see that like at the high school level. I really think it's important for students that are, let's say, preparing for postgraduate study to not lose out on learning in courses they need for for going on to college or technical school. And what I see some other districts are doing, like, I don't know our exact count of computers and Chromebooks, but I'm going to guess we have more than 1,500. I'm seeing that some places are making learner provisions for students that don't have these. So I just wouldn't rule out of hand that nothing is possible to be equitable, and that our focus be on how do we make sure students who must continue learning to pursue their studies after high school and to learn how to read, that we don't lose a half a year of that, and we keep our focus on how is it possible to make it equitable instead of dismissing out of hand that it may not be equitable. But I think some places are loaning out computers, and today I saw for the first time a band practice where the instruments were tuning up online and people were having a practice section and even playing together. Don't ask me how they did it, but I think different school districts are finding different ways to make sure people are connected and that education goes on. So I'd like to agree with you on equity, but not dismiss everything out of hand because it's virtual. I worry about particularly the high school students going on to study after high school. How do they finish those courses they're in? Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments from school committee members?
Yes,
Yes, me, of course.
Okay, I heard member Wall first and then member Ekstrom, please.
Thank you.
I was just thinking that perhaps this is an opportunity to more equalize the learning environment for those students who have fallen behind and have been promoted because that's what we do in our district, that perhaps this gives them the opportunity to learn at their level without being embarrassed at where they are right now. And that we have the opportunity to hand out Chromebooks or whatever we decide to use because the students are coming for lunch and breakfast. And so we can use that opportunity to get them into the system.
Thank you. Member Ekstrom?
Yeah, so thinking about distance learning and the state planning, this may not necessarily apply to us specifically, but for places like Mahar or Shelburne up in that area, they don't have reliable internet service. And so what is the state recommending would be done for those people? Because it may be that whatever thing it is that they're doing for people who don't have internet, that might be something that we need to adopt as well. Has there been any recommendation at all? Do you know?
I have not heard of anything. I think the superintendent may be able to speak to that, but there was a letter that's gone out to Tom Scott today at the Mass Association of School Superintendents, actually asking about that specifically, and in Western Mass, the challenges around remote learning because of a lack of reliable internet, even reliable cell phone service.
Right.
Yeah, and there has not been a response from the state that I'm aware of. The superintendent may have other information.
Well, is it possible to do hotspots where we give the child the ability to hook up where they are? And
not if there isn't anywhere they live. But at any rate, sorry, go ahead.
And didn't Comcast offer to provide internet service for free during this period for the kids?
There is something from Comcast. There is also the start of a discussion with GSET around that. But again, this and certainly we're exploring all of those options. But again, that does lose sight of the equity pieces for a student that's not capable of learning remotely because of profound disabilities, because of a need for significant services, because of English language
Right.
barriers.
Right.
Those pieces fall away, and I just don't see how it's acceptable for us to move forward when we're leaving behind students in those categories.
I
Chair
do have something
Priory,
to say when
point
we
of
get a
order.
second.
I've got a point of order from Member Johnson, please.
Just that I think that it's appropriate for the chair to make comments during the, I think you have a pretty broad latitude as the chair in your report on your work as chair. And I think it's very generous of you to open it up for people to take turns sharing their opinion. I think we may be starting to veer more into a deliberation discussion, which I don't think would be appropriate on this item in our agenda. My recommendation would be to poll the remaining committee members to just share opinions and comments, and then if we want to have a more in-depth discussion of this, put it on an agenda for a future meeting.
I appreciate that. I think you're right. I will take comments from, thank you, Member Johnson. And I will take comments from any of the school committee members that haven't yet made a comment on related to the my statement as chair.
I do have something.
Please, Katie, Member Karen.
So today I did a lot of reading and research. I have had a lot of questions about this for a lot of reasons. One, we could go to the equity piece. People tend to think about special ed as our most struggling students, our children with autism, our children with English language learning struggles, for example. But you also can't forget about our less struggling students, in that our dyslexic students, our trauma students. Not that their struggle is less, but they're less obvious. And having physical eyes on someone changes the way you educate them in a way that we'll never be able to accommodate through virtual learning. Exactly. So that's like a place my brain keeps going to. But like, as just more logical conversation, I did speak with MASC today because I had a couple of questions. And again, I was reassured that the state is not asking us to further educate our students. What they are asking us to do is keep our students engaged. In fact, the MASC representative I spoke to today said that they have been talking about our superintendent's response and hard work on our website as a wonderful job. That the goal is to keep our students engaged, to check in with them, to keep them fed and safe. And by creating ways that we can engage online and in person, through email, through packets, whatever that takes, we're checking in with them in a way that's really important at this moment. Not so much we need to further their math skills or further their understanding of science, but to keep them engaged with their community, their teachers, and learning. So that was really an interesting thing to talk about. The other thing we did really talk about was that, you know, the MASC is working on a better way of communicating with us. They said that they're trying to roll out a weekly email with more updates on policies and situations like that, because we're sort of all just being inundated with large amounts of email and advice, but not exactly how to make that advice appear. Mm-hmm. It's really important to think that just because we can hand out Chromebooks, which I don't think is actually capable for our district, I don't think it's a thing we can do. We don't have enough. We've been asking for years to get better money for capital planning to fund these. We do not have a Chromebook for every child in the district. That is not at all true. Even if you were to hand out Chromebooks to only the children who need them because they don't have a computer in their home, you forget families that have 4 children and 1 computer. You forget families that don't have the ability to care for a Chromebook, and now what happens to it when it's damaged? Now that family has to incur the cost. These ask a lot of questions. Yes, Comcast is offered to pay for internet. but I'm still unclear of how that works. Does the family have to rent the modem? What if there isn't already a line to their home? Are we going to get Comcast to run lines to homes? No, we're not. So those aren't simple questions that can be answered. I think we need to really stay focused on what the governor and the state and DESE and everybody's asking us to do, which is feed our children, make sure they're safe, and keep them engaged. That's all we can do at this moment.
Thank you, Member Karen. And Thelma agrees.
Thanks, Thelma.
I have a comment.
Please, Member Johnson.
I'd like to speak a little bit more personally tonight, because imagining what it would be like to suddenly be sent home. I think home is very different for different students, and in my own experience, school was a refuge for me. There was alcoholism at home, there was mental illness at home, so. I know I heard a story that someone asked, a police officer, what is happening with your work related to COVID, and he said the number one increase in calls that they're getting is for domestic violence. People are really being put in together in really difficult situations, and students aren't having that. Some students aren't having that refuge. I know someone who's a widow, and he works from home, an hourly employee, and has a small child. And I think that we have to face the fact that there is going to be a divide for students along these lines. Absolutely. There was one already in our schools that needed to be addressed that we didn't have the resources to fully face or deal with. And this is going to expand it and make it worse. And we have to we can't jump in with what we think are solutions that are clearly not going to work because of some of the reasons some of the members have talked about, and think of them as anything less than a Band-Aid. I think the best we can hope for is kind of what people are talking about, keeping that lifeline, keeping that communication going so they know we're here for us, we're going to we're going to have them back. They're going to get to be students with us again, and we'll be working together to solve the new problems that we will have when students come back to school. So that's all. I just wanted to kind of share that and encourage people to really think about the most difficult circumstances some of our students are facing, and thinking and designing for that, and doing what we can given those situations.
Thank you, Member Johnson.
Glenn, I can confirm you are not the only person who's been thinking about that.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
I appreciate that very much. I think to make sure we steer clear of any deliberation, we should move actually into the superintendent's report at this time.
Hit it.
I should probably unmute myself. Well, good evening, everybody. Thank you.
We can hear your eye rolling anyway. It's fine.
Well, I can start off by saying, on a humorous note, I considered calling everybody at 5 in the morning today to just bring a sense of normalcy and remind everybody that it was snowing, to put things in perspective. When school is in session, people complain about a snow day call, and, it makes you wonder, those calls weren't so bad, were they?
I just think that would be awesome. But anyway.
So I just want to start by saying, yes, there's a tremendous amount happening, and the amount of dialogue that's just already happened, I think each aspect that has just been shared is so thoughtful and reflects all the different considerations that we are actively addressing and trying to put a plan together that responds to what is a statewide and national and global situation, and do so in a way that's best for Greenfield students and families and educators. And all the concerns you've raised are at the forefront of our advocacy and efforts. And I just want to say very clearly that we hear the families that are out there that are saying we need support. We hear very clearly the teachers that are saying we miss our students and we want to help them. And we hear, the concerns around equity, and we want to come up with the best possible way to continue supporting our students in this completely unprecedented situation. And I just really am grateful that this committee is so thoughtful and is committed to those goals and keeping those principles of equity in mind as we move forward. So just a few updates. I think most of you have this, but it bears repeating. I think folks are aware that the governor has now issued some clear guidance, including a recommendation to stay home. And I do want folks to hear this clearly because this is first and foremost a public health situation. He's really, although it's not a shelter in place, he is asking people to stay home unless absolutely necessary. And I want to thank all the Greenfield families that have taken this seriously, and that means no play dates. And really, it is challenging. It is challenging, no question. So thank you. He's also limited work to essential employees only. And so tonight we have a number of executive session items that are related to our employees that fall in this category. And I will continue to bring information to the committee as appropriate. But we are making adjustments to be consistent with the governor's guidance there. On Friday, we had a call with the Commissioner of Education, and he indicated there may be some changes, which is what we've been talking about tonight, around this idea of distance learning and how the state is guiding us. How on Saturday, we received updated federal guidance around 9 o'clock at night. On Sunday, I organized the Franklin County superintendents. On Monday, I organized a response that broadened to the Hampshire County superintendents, and today the Hampshire and Franklin County superintendents sent specific advocacy on behalf of Western Mass, specifically to the lack of broadband, the lack of cell service, and the lack of computers and devices in homes. This isn't to say that we shouldn't do distance learning at all. It's to say if we move to distance learning, it has got to be fair to all students whether or not they have access to this. And I want to bring your attention to the fact that many of our teachers or administrators are in the same boat. So when I work remotely with our principals or teachers, I have staff who do not have a computer at home. I have staff who don't have cell service in their home, which means that they're using a landline on a Zoom call and making a long-distance telephone call, which has cost, even if they're on in a way that they can access. So those types of considerations are really practical challenges, but they are considerations that we're working to overcome as we move forward. They're not going to stop us, but they're important. And at this point, we are waiting for updated guidance from the commissioner. As of late this afternoon, I got an update from the Mass Association of School Superintendents that there was a 3 o'clock conference call with MASC, Department of Ed, MASS, MTA, AFT, and these folks are all very important in this discussion, and that will continue to translate into written guidance to the districts. The school superintendents are really clearly asking for clear written guidance because families are confused. And when you hear in the media that the whole country has gone to distance learning or online learning, and you kind of think, why isn't Greenfield doing this yet? The clear answer has been that, just what Member Karen said earlier, the guidance in the state of Massachusetts has not been to provide distance learning. The guidance in the state of Massachusetts has been keep students engaged, keep them connected, provide resources and enrichment, but these are not days. We're not replicating the school environment at a distance, which is the same thing I said to you folks at the last meeting. So if that changes, I'll continue to update you. We're trying to prepare for all eventualities, but that's, as of right now, that has not changed. And then the final thing is related to legislation that was filed today. Bill HD 4974, an act to further address challenges faced by municipalities, school districts, and state authorities resulting from COVID-19. And I just want to make you all aware of that because I know the mayor is certainly aware, and it may provide some further relief from the challenges that municipalities are facing, from some things as simple as the deadline for the state budget to monetary relief. So more details on that are available, through reading the bill and through discussion, but I wanted to bring that to your attention. Just generally speaking, I'll just touch on a thanks to all the administrators that are really hard at work. The Franklin County superintendents are meeting at least weekly. The commissioner is in touch with the superintendents, usually daily, but on a conference call at least weekly. Central office staff and the principals are checking in daily. Teachers and instructional assistants are participating in professional development and connecting with students. IEP meetings are being held in Greenfield remotely. So my thanks to Dr. Dickinson for leading that work. We're one of the few districts that has really tried to move that forward and keep providing those services. Meetings with the Greenfield Education Association have been ongoing. The buildings have been cleaned with a huge thanks to our custodians. Of course, food service meals have continued to be provided, and I cannot thank our food service workers enough. We're continuing to encourage learning through student engagement. We launched a YouTube channel this past week, and we've had at least 1,000 views on the videos that have been put up by our educators so far, ranging from read-alouds to releasing the trout from the Greenfield Middle School into the Green River. And we'll continue to launch them. The new videos go up every day, sometimes multiple times a day. And just please don't hesitate to reach out. The teachers are interested in connecting. If you have questions and you're a parent at home, please don't hesitate to reach out. And we are going to continue bringing information, updates, resources as quickly as we can. Thank you.
Thank you, Superintendent Harper.
Holy crow, you've been busy, girl. How are you feeling? Because you haven't been all that healthy in general, not in general, but just recently. How are you feeling?
Thanks for asking. I'm feeling better.
Good.
Okay. Any questions for the superintendent?
I have one.
Sure. Member Hollins.
Superintendent, are you saying that, or would you clarify about funding to schools for their extraordinary expense? Would it be correct that there is no confirmed funding for schools, and it will be through HD 4974 that this will be addressed? And before you answer, thanks for all your hard work.
I have not. I received notice of the bill through the mayor later this afternoon. I have not read every line in it. What I am aware of in terms of potential monetary relief is to municipalities directly, and we began tracking that at the city and school district level several weeks ago in terms of potential reimbursement if funds become available later. So the school department and the city, through a sort of unified command structure, are continuing to track expenses and report them to the city weekly. Steve's on the line if he wants to chime in, but that's been our process so far.
Thank you. I just want to say if there's any way to get teachers that don't have computers, sounds like that's important somehow. Thank you.
Yep, thanks.
Thank you. Okay, I do believe that we need to move into executive session at this time. I'm forgetting, do I need a motion to move into executive session?
Oh, do you want me to?
Yes.
Okay, I will entertain a motion to move into executive session under Massachusetts General Laws 30A, subsection 21, 3 and 6. 3 is to discuss strategy with respect to collective bargaining or litigation if an open meeting may have a detrimental effect on the bargaining or litigation position of the public body and the chair so declares. And section 6 is to consider the purchase, exchange, lease, or value of real property if the chair declares an open meeting may have a detrimental effect on the negotiating position of the public body. Do I have a motion for that?
So moved.
Second.
Motion from Member Hollins and a second from, was that Member Karen?
Sure.
Yeah, sure.
We need a roll call vote. Member Ekstrom, would you be so inclined?
Sure. Member Karen,
Yes.
Chair Proietti,
Yes.
Member Holland,
Yes.
Member Wall,
Yes.
Member Johnson,
Yes.
and myself. We are unanimous.
Okay, so we now move into executive session. We will not return for any additional agenda items into open session after this. So this portion of the meeting is adjourned. School committee members and the public, we will exit this actual call at this time. And school committee members, you have separate instructions that were sent to you as a Google Calendar invite in your school district email to be able to connect to the executive session portion of the meeting.